Discover the new Burkina Faso under the leadership of Captain Ibrahim Traoré. What if I told you that one of the world's poorest nations, once trapped in endless political instability and foreign control, is now rising with a new kind of leadership? One that has shocked the West, inspired Africa, and ignited hope in millions? It's the real transformation happening right now in Burkina Faso. Led by a young military officer, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the man who has become a symbol of African resistance, dignity, and independence. And today, we're going to discover the new Burkina Faso under the leadership of Captain Ibrahim Traoré, a story of courage, controversy, and a possible new dawn for Africa. 1. The context: Burkina Faso before Traoré. To truly understand why Traoré's rise is so significant, we need to rewind a little. Burkina Faso, a landlocked country in West Africa, has long been seen as a country struggling with extreme poverty. It's consistently ranked among the world's poorest, political instability, multiple coups since independence in 1960, terrorist attacks, with parts of the country taken over by armed jihadist groups, foreign dependence, particularly on France, its former colonial ruler. For many years, ordinary Burkinabe people felt abandoned by their leaders, ignored by global powers, and left without hope for real change. But in September 2022, everything shifted. 2. The rise of Captain Ibrahim Traoré. At just 34 years old, Captain Ibrahim Traoré became the world's youngest leader after overthrowing the previous junta led by Paul-Henri Damiba. What shocked the world wasn't just his age, but his bold message. He declared that Burkina Faso would no longer be a puppet of foreign powers. He promised to fight terrorism head-on, even if it meant breaking ties with powerful nations. He spoke in a way that ordinary people understood: direct, fearless, and unapologetically African. "We are not against any country, but we refuse to be enslaved," he boldly announced. This struck a chord not only with his people, but also across Africa. Many began comparing him to legendary African leaders like Thomas Sankara, the iconic Burkinabe revolutionary assassinated in 1987. 3. Breaking free from colonial shadows. One of the most powerful aspects of Traoré's leadership is his stance against neo-colonialism. Burkina Faso, like many former French colonies, has long been tied economically and militarily to France. French troops were stationed in the country under the pretext of fighting terrorism. But in early 2023, Traoré ordered French forces to leave. He said Burkina Faso would no longer rely on outsiders who had failed to bring security. Instead, he sought new alliances, particularly with Russia, Mali, and Niger, other African nations challenging Western dominance. This move was seen as both bold and risky. Supporters hailed it as a step toward true independence. Critics warned it could isolate the country and worsen its instability. Still, for many Burkinabe, it was the first time they felt their leader was putting Burkina Faso first. 4. Security, the fight for survival. Burkina Faso's greatest challenge remains terrorism and insecurity. Large parts of the country had been under siege from extremist groups linked to Al-Qaeda and ISIS. Under Traoré, the government launched mass recruitment drives, calling ordinary citizens to join the army and volunteer forces. Tens of thousands responded. This wasn't just about creating soldiers, it was about restoring pride and unity. People who once felt powerless now believed they could take part in defending their homeland. While challenges remain, Traoré's strategy has shifted the psychology of the nation from fear to defiance. 5. A vision for self-reliance. But Traoré's message goes beyond security. He is calling for a new model of development: agriculture. He urges Burkinabe to focus on producing their own food instead of relying on imports. Resources. Burkina Faso is rich in gold, yet most of it has been controlled by foreign companies. Traoré wants to ensure that the wealth benefits the people, not outsiders. Education and youth. He emphasizes the role of young people in building a new independent Africa. "We have the resources, we have the people. All we need is the courage to take control of our destiny," he insists. This kind of rhetoric has made him one of the most inspirational leaders in Africa today. 6. The Pan-African connection. Traoré isn't just thinking about Burkina Faso. He's become part of a broader Pan-African wave. Alongside leaders in Mali and Niger, he formed the Alliance of Sahel States, AES, a regional partnership rejecting French influence and promising mutual defense. For many Africans, this feels like a revival of the spirit of unity once championed by leaders like Kwame Nkrumah and Thomas Sankara. Across social media, Traoré is often hailed as the new Sankara, inspiring young Africans who feel tired of corruption, exploitation, and dependency. 7. Global reactions. Of course, not everyone is cheering. Western governments see Traoré's actions as destabilizing. France has criticized his decisions, warning that pushing away foreign help could worsen insecurity. Russia, on the other hand, has stepped in, offering security cooperation and building ties. This has sparked debates about whether Burkina Faso is truly independent or simply switching one influence for another. But one thing is clear: Traoré has changed the conversation. Burkina Faso is no longer invisible on the global stage. 8. Real change or just symbolism? The big question remains: is this truly a new dawn for Burkina Faso, or just another chapter in its turbulent history? On one hand, the people feel more hopeful, patriotic, and united than in decades. On the other hand, poverty, insecurity, and corruption are still massive challenges. Real change takes time, and it's far too early to judge the outcome. But what cannot be denied is that Traoré has captured the imagination of his people and the wider African continent. 9. Relatable scenarios and inspiration. Think of it this way. Imagine living in a neighborhood where gangs control the streets and the police are powerless. For years, your leaders promise safety, but nothing changes. Then suddenly, a young leader steps up, not with polished speeches or empty promises, but with raw courage and a clear message. We will fight for ourselves. We will take back our streets. That's what Traoré represents to millions of Burkinabe people. It's not just about politics, it's about restoring dignity, about believing in yourself again. 10. The future of Burkina Faso. So what lies ahead? If Traoré succeeds, Burkina Faso could become a model for African self-reliance and resistance to foreign domination. If he fails, it risks plunging deeper into chaos, reinforcing the argument that Africa cannot escape its struggles. Either way, the world is now paying attention. Burkina Faso, once forgotten, has become a symbol of Africa's fight for independence in the 21st century. 11. The symbolism of a young leader. There's also something deeply symbolic about Ibrahim Traoré's age. At just 34 years old, he represents a new generation of African leadership, one that is not tied to the past, not afraid to confront global powers, and not shy about demanding respect on the world stage. For decades, African nations have been led mostly by older politicians, many of whom clung to outdated systems or allowed corruption to flourish. Traoré's rise challenges that cycle. It shows that youth can lead, youth can inspire, and youth can carry the torch of change. Across universities, community centers, and online platforms, African youth are discussing Traoré's speeches, sharing his bold words, and asking, if he can do this in Burkina Faso, why can't we do the same in our own countries? Burkina Faso is no longer silent. Under Captain Ibrahim Traoré, it is shouting a message to the world. We may be small, we may be poor, but we will never be controlled again. Whether he becomes a legend like Thomas Sankara or another short-lived chapter in African history, only time will tell. But one thing is certain: the spirit of the Burkinabe people has been reignited. And their story reminds us all that even the smallest nations, with the right leadership, can shake the entire world. If you found this journey into the new Burkina Faso thought-provoking, make sure to like this video, subscribe for more deep dives, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Because stories like this prove that history is being written before our very eyes.